Hey, good evening. I'm understanding um, my internet connection is not real stable right now, so I was trying to slowly come in and approach. But anyway, we will jump in and hope that things correct themselves. This is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous. It's Friday night, and I come to you on Friday nights, although last Friday night I wasn't able to. But typically, I'm going to come to you Friday night just to speak into your life and to give you some tips, some tools, some techniques to survive divorce. Not only survive it, but thrive on the other side of it. I have seen it happen many, many times. Having worked in the divorce world for the past 17 years, holding support groups, being a divorce coach, also becoming a domestic mediator. It was interesting, and I posted this on the Facebook page that I had coffee with a guy who came through my group about 3 years ago. Very nice young man, probably in his 40s, I think, mid 40s. It reminded me of my son, just a really great, great guy. And he went through my group pretty devastated 3 years ago. And now he is finding himself, the fog has cleared. He's beginning to reestablish his life. And the reason that he's so successful is because he went through my group, for one, because there's something about the group dynamic that really helps you to be with other people, to have that community that's really, truly helpful as you go through divorce, to understand that you're not alone and you're not crazy for all the things that you're going through. So, anyway, had coffee with him. It was delightful. He talked about how much the group impacted him. And he recalled several people that were in the group. It was a group, probably 9 or 10 individuals, men and women. And he recalled them and had a continued relationship with some of them. And so it was interesting just to speak with him and to hear from him and how he was doing. And he talked about the things, he brought up the things in group that we discussed and how they were instrumental for him in his getting through the divorce, but also starting life after divorce. So I wanted to speak about three of those things tonight that we talked about. And these are three ways to make sure that you do heal and get on the other side of divorce. And when you're on, the divorce is finished, you have the opportunity to really grow into a more authentic individual. Divorce changes us. The question is, how will it change us? Will it change us into a better, more focused person, or will it change us into a bitter, someone who refuses to acknowledge what's going on in them and continue to marry the same person, consequently, after the relationship, their divorce has happened and that relationship has ended? It happens because we have all this stuff inside of us that if we don't address it and we don't heal it, it's just going to continue to control us. So I want to speak to three things this evening. And hey, Marcia, good to see you. I want to speak to these three things this evening. Three ways to help yourself through divorce and to survive after divorce. And first of all, like this guy that I met coffee with, he was intentional about working on his healing. And so until you are intentional about healing, you are going to continue to be harmed and dysfunctional from the divorce. It's just human. No one can get through this on their own. We need support. We need the words, the affirmation of other individuals. So, number one is you have to be intentional on working on your healing. This may involve a therapist. This may involve a support group, which, of course, I highly recommend because I've seen the effects of it, not only in this guy that I had coffee with, but many hundreds of people that I have worked with in the past 17 years. I see them on the other side of it. I see them find their new life and find what makes them authentic, unique, and strong, and creative, and content with life. And of course, one of those, we have to look at the spiritual side because we need God in this equation. We cannot heal just mentally and emotionally. We need to heal spiritually, and we need to do that intentionally. You can't do it without God. You can fake it for a while. You can think you're okay for a while, but it goes to the core and the root of who you are. And so we have to be intentional on every layer of that, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual. So, intention to work on your healing is vitally important. Number two, boundaries with self and others. This is something that I talked about with him and coffee, and how important it was that he learned boundaries. And this is an issue that always comes up in my groups, is people who have struggled with boundaries. And many people beat themselves up because I didn't have boundaries. I allowed too much to go on. I allowed the wrong things to go on. Well, beating yourself up doesn't help at all, but learning boundaries does. Boundaries with other people and understanding that, no, this is not acceptable to me, and this will not come into have access to my mind and heart. I need to guard my heart, as the scriptures tell us, guard my heart, because all things come from our heart. And that's our spirit, and that's our soul, and that's our mind. And so we have to have those boundaries with other people, but also with ourselves. I know the session that I'm with right now, we're on emotions, and we look at our emotions in group and we say, what are those lies that are in those emotions that I'm believing? And I have to set boundaries for myself in my own mind and heart of what is good for me, what is truth, and what are those lies that I'm believing. And I tell you, everyone who goes through my group relates to that fact, that they find and can find lies within what they are believing about themselves. So it's just, it's a fascinating process. It's so difficult, it's so heavy, but it's so powerful to go through this process and say, you know what, I'm so raw and so broken. I want to discover what's going on here. I want to forget the facade. I want to be real and authentic, and I want to deal with stuff that's in me that I haven't dealt with before. I've rationalized it before. I've allowed things to happen before. I want to get real. I want to get real, because then I can begin to heal. Boundaries are so very important, always an interesting topic that we have in group. And the next one, and this one is just so important, and that is not believing that the next relationship holds your happiness. So many of us are so wounded from divorce, and we think that, well, I've got to prove myself. I've got to get out there. I've got to find someone who adores me. And you will. You absolutely will. But the question is, are you ready? Are you healthy enough? Are you healed enough to step into a new relationship? I promise you, you are not for the first couple of years after your divorce. That's why it's so important. Again, we go back to intention on healing. So you can get healed. So you can recognize those red flags in relationships and say, you know what? I put up with that once. I'm not doing that again. Because if you don't, you'll end up marrying and being in a relationship with the same type of person that you left. Seen it far too many times. So, number three, important point. Do not believe that your happiness, your healing, your contentment, your peace is going to be in the next relationship. It is not. The only relationship that is going to heal you is that relationship with God through Jesus Christ the Lord. That is the only relationship that will heal you, not a person. Now, I'm not against your next relationship. I hope as many people that I have worked with will find their next relationship. That's a good thing. I just want you to be healed before you step into it. That's all I want for you. You work on your healing, and then you find a healed person to connect with. You don't get healed, You find an unhealed, unhealthy person to connect with. Seen it too many times. Talked with too many people on their second and third divorce because they didn't take the time and intention to heal. Anyway, I've made my points. Hopefully, I've made them so that they convince you. And you may say, well, I've been divorced 3 years. I've been divorced 5 years. Therefore, time has passed. I'm able and ready to get into a good relationship. No, time is not your indicator. What's your indicator? That you were intentional in your healing, that you learned boundaries with yourself and others, that you also became a healthy single person so that you can connect with another healthy single person. I hope this helps. I will assure you, in my 17 years of working in the divorce world with hundreds and hundreds of men and women, these 3 points hold true in every person's life. Hey, I'm glad that you reached out. I'm glad that you are here. Don't forget the resources that I have that are going to be that are available to you so that you can continue to heal through this process. God bless you. Thanks for joining me tonight, and we'll see you next week or maybe sometime in between on Divorce Support Anonymous. This is Kathy Beatty, walking with you every step of the way through the trauma and after the trauma of divorce. Have a good evening.